the issue of men, and this is men and boys, I should say. Why are boys, why are young men why they are seemingly failing? We can see that a lot of men are not doing well. A lot of the young ones, in particular, who have not already, settled themselves in any career, are struggling to make it. Why, while at the same time, their counterparts or their sisters are doing great. And with that, I think we can say some examples. If I want to talk about some, while I was in school, in my class, uh, I could tell. It's been a while, but I can remember that we had numerous women compared to the guys. There were lots of girls in my class, pharmacy school, compared to the boys. I don't know about you in your case. How was the distribution?
I think it was about the same.
It was about the same for you?
Yeah. You could see that there were less men and less women. Initially, when I was going to pharmacy school, I thought pharmacy was mainly men. Like the older, you look at pharmacists and you think of a white old man, you know. That's what my perception was till I entered pharmacy school. And I looked around and most of us were women, just few men around. So I was asking my daughter, how is it like in medical school? And she's also saying there are lots more women,
Young ladies, yeah.
young ladies than men. So I was asking, where are the men? Are they in the finance or where can we find them?
I think some of them are in there, but traditionally, every class that you go to in college, I think you will see the trend that there are more girls or more young women than there are young men. And it's also showing up even in our other groups. Even if you go to church, you see the young women are there doing more, than the young men. And wherever you go, perhaps the only place that you won't find that is the military, where it's more like male dominated.
So maybe that's where they are.
Well, how many people can be in the military, right? So it's something that is worrisome. And I think there are stats out there showing that the young men are not doing well. Young men are not doing well. And apart from the examples that we have actually cited, there's probably more that we can bring up if you were given a chance to, mention it. If you are watching and you want to put a comment in there, you agree with us or you don't, tell us your mind, because we see, I don't know if it's by design, but we can tell that more of our young men are lagging behind the young ladies. Even if you have children and you have more, you have men, boys and girls, sometimes the tendency actually comes out there. You could tell the young ladies doing pretty much better than the young men. It's become a trend, and we're going to discuss why this is and the areas that they affect, and hopefully see if we can suggest some solutions to it. Today is Father's Day, so we felt that it's nice to just chill and talk about something like this, because they are going to be the next fathers in the future, and if we don't see to what is going on before we know, it's not good. So that is what we're going to be discussing. So the first thing then,
I think before that, let's throw this in the overall, maybe population wise, there are more women than men, but I don't really know the proportion, whether it's 2:1 or 1/4/2. I'm not sure. I didn't really research that, but overall it is all well known fact that there are more women than men. So maybe that can explain, but you can see that the proportion is so worrisome if you go to the classrooms.
If you go to classrooms, if
and
you go to
to
churches,
the colleges, you go to the churches, you go around, look around, you can see there are fewer and fewer men around or young men around.
Definitely, I agree. Yes, there's more women than men. That is a fact. But like she said, the proportion of people who are doing well, if you go to class or if you go to any classroom, any area where men and women are doing good, you will not find the same proportion in terms of our population on earth. Women are doing better, to be short, in every area right now, I mean, that I can think of, than men. And that is why we are here. We are happy that our women are doing good and doing better in terms of education. Most of these professional careers we're talking about, they are doing so well. Is the men are not doing great. So what is happening? Are we mishandling the men, or are the women just becoming smarter, or what is happening? That's the question that we want to help answer today. And if you are watching us, we want you to be also active in the comment section and post your comments if you have any, and we will try and see if we can bring some of them up. Let me see if I have any comments right now. No. All right. So that is what is happening. I think there's some comments, but for some reason I'm not seeing it from here until we figure out how we show it right there. Hopefully we will see it before we close. Yeah. But definitely that is what we are discussing. So let's start with the education part. Education. Why are more young ladies in school than the young men? Why are they also graduating more than the men? The men are falling out compared to the women. They are falling. If you have people who are going to colleges, more men drop out than the girls. Why is that happening? That's the first question that we want to answer. You have any idea?
Yes, so I think historically, there was a time that I think overall society realized that the women are being left behind. So there were like things that were set up like no woman left behind. Let's educate the women. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation or something like, because we are grooming the children and all that. So there was a need for society to push the women. So I'm thinking that because women has been encouraged, to participate, intentional efforts were put in place for women to really thrive or go ahead and be part of developments and things like that. So I think in so doing, the women, after given this opportunity, decided to step up. And that's why you are seeing more women taking part in things around more than men. That can be just one of the reasons, I think.
Yes, and I agree with you. I agree with you because there was deliberate effort to bring women, and the feminist groups and all these other interest groups were up in arms trying to make sure that more girls are educated.
Right.
More support systems for girls to make sure that they catch up with the guys, catch up with the boys. But for some reason, it looks like we left the men behind. Much as we did that for the boys and for the girls to be able to catch up. Now the girls have all the support system while the boys are falling behind. Right. And one other thing that I can also say to that is, even if you go to the school system, most of the teachers are also female. Most of the teachers who encourage students are all female. If you look at it, it's obvious. Go to any school and you will find just the minimal number of men teaching. Most of them are ladies, and the ladies, connect more with the girls in school, or I should say the girls feel more comfortable with the ladies, and so they are able to thrive and not, fail, or what should I say, and not drop out, especially if you are at the age where you can drop out. So that's one major reason we have more female teachers than male teachers, and that is supporting more of the girls to go. So maybe what we should begin to do is to begin to enroll more of the male teachers. If we give more incentives for males to be able to also teach, so that the men or the boys will see themselves in the teachers, that we too can do this, or they can have that connection that will make them continue their education in that regard. I don't know if you have anything else.
I think in the same line, I think at church we were talking about the same thing, that there are female teachers, and we don't have any male
In the
teachers.
Sunday
Sunday
school,
school
right?
teachers, they are all female. So they tend to engage the girls more as compared to the guys. You know, sometimes the boys may be a little harder to deal with. They cannot sit still. They cannot, you know, they easily disengage, or they get bored easily. So if you don't really know how to keep up with them, you are just going to let them be, and unconsciously you may focus more on the girls. So if the boys are not engaged, they're going to lose interest in school. That's why we have more dropouts of men and young men from school, because there's less engagement, because the females in that setting are higher than the males. So like you were saying, we have to encourage more men to patronize. And naturally, I can say that women are nurturers, right? We nurture, we have the patience and all that. Most men will be like, I don't have time for this, you know. But
So
we
maybe
have
you're
to.
not nurturing the boys as good. That's why the boys are falling behind, right?
No, but the men can really engage or keep up with them more. So I think there should be programs or things that can be set in place that we can engage. We can get the men also entering into the school system so that they can engage the boys more.
Perfect. The other thing that I also think is that we don't have, well, the teachers not being in the classrooms serve as a lack of role models for the boys, right? They don't have the role models in terms of education system for them to be able to look up to and then do the right things. And then also, the other thing that is a common knowledge is that the way the school systems treat the boys, if a boy misbehaves, the way, especially in the US here, how the school system would treat the boy, make them feel like they are enemies of the system. You know, forgetting that these children are children. That's what I said. They are kids.
Yeah.
You know, we treat our young boys with so much disdain, so much harshness. You know, the kind of suspensions and you know all kinds of punishments that we give to boys. They don't compare to girls. And of course, the girls may not misbehave as boys because they are different.
Yes.
You know, but if you make boys suffer so much harm, you know, in the school system, you naturally will let them lose interest in studying or being fruitful citizens in the schools. Some of them will lose interest in going to school or even pursuing any career because they see that consistently any little mistake they make in the schools are met with severe punishment, including being terminated from your school, or being withdrawn, suspension, and all the other kinds of punishments that we cannot list. In the US, you are either fired or thrown out of school or suspended. But in other places, they actually will whip you if you're a boy. In other places where people are still allowed to beat kids. And all these make sure the boys become, timid. The boys become, they lose their self-confidence. They become scared of authority, and they don't seem to make up anything good in the school systems for themselves. I don't know if you have anything to say.
Yeah, to add to what you're saying, like if you are being told that you are bad, you are this all the time, every little thing, every mistake is blown out of proportion, and you are being told over and over that you are a terrible person, you are a bad kid, you are a bad kid, you have to live to that. You just end up accepting that you are bad. Then all your potentials are going to be minimized, because all that people expect you to be is to be bad.
It's to be bad.
So, like, if you are getting that from school and you come home and the support system is not that great, you end up being a bad kid. And also, you were talking about the boys being treated differently. It can
and
be
even
like
before, even on that point of the expectation, what comes to mind is because we don't expect a lot also from the boys.
Yes.
There's lower expectation for boys to achieve. They have more expectation for the young ladies, for the girls, because the girls are calmer. Naturally, girls are calmer. More beautiful, more soft to deal with, and so we usually just bow to them and allow them to do their thing.
Yes.
We don't expect anything from the boys, especially if a boy shows any signs of disrespect or any signs
Just
of
being a boy
being a
too.
boy, which is normal, especially if you're a child. People are on medications to calm them down, as children. So it's a known fact that kids are going to be kids. So if you lose the expectation of good things from them, then the kids stop trying to achieve because they know that the teachers don't even expect anything from them. And this especially happens in minority schools.
Right.
With people, especially teachers from the affluent areas who teach in a minority school and do not expect anything because already they have in their mind that they come from a bad home. Their family is probably poor. They don't even have anything to read at home. So they leave them to just fail and just push them on from grade to grade without expecting anything much from them. So if you do that, lower expectation will obviously incur, a lower outcome because they know that nothing much is expected from them.
Right.
So that's very serious. Some of the things that we, when we were growing up, when we did was the expectation from home.
Was huge.
Yep. You were expected to be this. Right from childhood, you are told you are going to be either a doctor, a lawyer, a pilot, or something huge that you don't even know what you're talking about.
That your parents were not even close to it, right?
They were not close, But the expectation is so huge that you better not mess up in school. And some of the expectations came from school. Your teachers I remember when I was going to high school, I said I will not do science because I don't like math. And my teachers were the ones that said, no, you can do it. Even though I knew I didn't like math and I wasn't good. My teachers were the ones that said, you can do it. And they placed me in a science class because they expected me to be able to do it. But if it was today, we would just be, especially because, everybody's freedom. You don't want to tackle somebody's child and make them feel like you're forcing them to do anything. So we just let people be, especially the young men. And what happens is it come out not making much of themselves. So it's something of all of our doing. Expectation, especially from the schools, but also from parents, of course, is something that I think is contributing to this. I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, and I think you touched on, I wanted to talk about low self-esteem. So when you're growing up, like less expectation, right? And everything that you do is not good enough, you don't build that confidence in you. So you feel like you can't measure up. You can't be what is expected of you because you have low self-esteem. Nobody has ever looked at you and told you that you can't be this. All that you are hearing is the negative things that you cannot be. And you look back at your family and you can see that there is nobody in the family that has achieved anything great. So growing up, your self-esteem is being attacked here and there. So because of that, it's likely that you're not going to stay long in school because you'll be like, the school is not for me, because there is no confidence. Nothing has been built in you to tell you that you are able to achieve what other people are achieving because you have low self-esteem.
Now, do you think this is from the teachers doing or from parents?
It can be both. Okay. So if you meet a teacher, like you were saying, that you are coming from a poor neighborhood, they don't expect much from you. The way your appearance do not even appeal to them, and they don't expect much from you. So they barely expect you to do anything. And you have accepted that there is nothing in me.
Nothing good in
Nothing good in me to give back. So my self-esteem, my importance is so minimized that I can't be that. And when you go home too, your parents are all on you. Whatever you do, they tell you that you don't do it right. You can't wash the dishes. You can keep your room clean. Like it's all around you.
And that's the sad thing because when we parents do that, we forget the good things that they do. And for a child's development, one of the best things is to motivate them.
Right.
So you encourage them, even if they do a lot of bad. If they do one good, in order to reinforce the good, you appreciate them. You praise them, no matter how bad that the child has been. If one good thing comes out of them, it is your duty to recognize that, because that's from the bad. Everybody will see it. In fact, Even if you don't see somebody from outside, will see it and let you know. The teachers will call you and tell you your child
is really bad.
is really bad. He did this at school today. They will tell you, but what if they did one thing good? Praise that kid and let them have that, build that self-esteem. Because otherwise, our boys will continue to go down. Because it's not a joke. You just look around. If you go to all the careers, all the top-notch professions that we're talking about, they are all dominated by girls. And I'm happy that the girls are there.
Right.
Don't get us wrong. But we want to make sure that our boys don't fall behind. That's the whole point. So we got to prop them up with self-esteem, higher expectations, push them hard so that they can do the right things. I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, and also like it's Father's Day today, right? So to be able to impact your child or your children, you have to learn to speak positive things, seasonal things. Like as Christians, we are told that the tongue is so powerful. So even if your child is bad or is perceived that he is bad, as a Christian, as a good parent, you have to reverse that, and say positive things about your child. I think that will lead us to other topic that we're talking about, spiritual attacks on our boys. We have to be intentional. If everybody is telling, I think there was a testimony about one mother saying that, no, a child was testifying about his mother. And he said that I was really bad child, really bad kid. But when I come home, my mother will call me a prophet. He said, oh, prophet, you are going to be a pastor. You are going to be a prophet. So the mom reinforced that in him. So as he continued to be bad, at the back of his mind, he knows that his mother expects him to be a prophet or to be good. And now he turned out to be a very good person and a very good Christian and an elder, So there are certain things as parents, as fathers, as mothers, we should be intentional. Everybody will be saying bad things about your child. But what are you saying? What are you telling your kid? How are you building your child? Because it's really hit them. Whatever they are hearing is what is the mind. As they keep hearing it over and over, then they will tend to live as that because that's what's expected of them. So we have to be very careful the things that we say about our children.
All right. And that brings us to the question that you said, are boys under attack? That's another thing. Spiritual attack, because some people do. As one of fathers, I said, when we were talking about it earlier on at my Father's Day roundtable, my son and my daughters, they brought it up. They said that spiritually, boys or men are under attack. So let's delve into that, because that was a unique perspective. I never thought he would bring that up. But for him to I asked him to explain. And I think it's good to bring that up here. Are men under attack or are boys under attack? And the question, when I asked him why he says that, his answer was that because men are supposed to be the head of the family. And being the head of the family, if men are attacked or if boys are attacked at an early age, then the whole family is conquered. And so he gets more because if you're attacked, you don't have good marriage or you don't even marry at all. You raise bad kids because you are not yourself a good person. Even if you raise some, because some, bad men are just having babies around, not sticking to any home. And so it is serious stuff. Are we under spiritual attack because of what he said? I think it is. If you agree and you're watching, put it in the chat. Are we under spiritual attack? And if so, what other ways do you think that is manifesting? For him, the person I was talking with, he's saying that because men are supposed to be the spiritual heads or the family heads or the household heads, if they are attacked, then the whole family unit is broken, which I agree. What do you think?
Yep. So I think so too, because it's like if there is no man in the house, the woman is supposed to be a man and a woman. We have been made in such a way that we have to play a role of nurturing children. And the man is supposed to be the disciplinary, right?
The disciplined man, right?
Yeah, so you discipline the kids.
Disciplinarian.
Yeah, disciplinarian, right? So if there is no person in the household to play that role, there is so much that a woman can do. You know, you can do your best, and there are certain things that you're not even going to bother. And definitely is going to affect the children. So it's affecting your household, and it will lead to affecting the whole community, then the whole country. So men are definitely, or young men, boys are definitely under attack spiritually. So as Christians, we have to be conscious of that, because we can find them in the churches and we can find them in the schools. And you said they are more in the military or maybe in prison or somewhere, you know. So we have to be intentional about putting things in place so that we can reach out to them and nurture them or discipline them from the onset so that they will grow to be good men, good fathers. And if you are a good father, there is no way that you will let your family astray. You are going to be the man that will be in charge. You know, you're going to take care of the home. You're going to provide. And as you provide, your kids are going to live to be good children. And society is built as a whole. So I think men are definitely under attack, but we have to be intentional and fight back.
Men are under attack, but we need to be intentional and fight back, because that's a serious thing. And I mean, we live in the US, and you can tell how many broken homes we have, especially when it comes to more of the poor neighborhoods, or, you know, non-affluent places. We have single family homes with only women raising boys. And when that happens, the devil has won, right? Because there's no way you can pass on unless you actually have very good role models in the form of uncles and stuff
To step
to
in and step
step
up,
in
right?
and do the fatherly role.
Right.
You are definitely going to be missing out as a boy in such a home. And if that happens, then of course the devil has won. And so we definitely have to be on the lookout, make sure that if your son is being attacked, see it as a generational attack, not just on him, but his children are going to be affected. Much as you are affected, his children are going to be affected, and a lot of things are going to be. But now we've talked about that as a problem, but we'll come back to solutions.
Okay.
But before we go to solutions, let's talk about yet another problem. Many young men are making less money, making less money these days. Again, we're talking about men downward spiral, men's downward spiral, boys downward spiral, as against them, women. Many men are making less money. You know, society, you know, put our hands together around our females, our ladies, and help them out, you know, to make more money. That being said, we still have income disparities between men and women in certain settings. You know, when you go to offices, the same job that a woman may be doing, they may be paid less if a man did it. So we know that is there. But we're talking about overall, men are making less money. Men are making less money, and there are reasons for that. Some of the reasons we will talk about, and then we'll move on to maybe the solutions. The first one, I should go ahead.
Yeah.
The first reason why men are making less money is that most of the work that men used to do have been shipped out to China. I'm going to be short. China, maybe India, or some of the other Asian coming countries, Asian economies, right? Men used to work in the factories, in the shops, in the places where men were definitely working with their hands. Most of those jobs are gone. Now we are in the service industry. So most of the jobs that are open, especially in the US and in the Western countries and in Africa and everywhere else, is, you know, service, you know, whether it's in the hotel business or administration or stuff like that. But the traditional handiwork, traditional things that men used to do with their hands, most of them are no more, because most of the world's factories have been shipped into Asia, and most specifically into China. So most of the men are making less money now, except for a few that have still have placed themselves in the service industry. That is one reason why men are making less money. So you may have a son who is probably going to make less money than you make now, because in their time they're not going to have the same jobs you have unless they retool themselves into the service industry, the technology industry, or the AI industry, which is coming up, where they can become, finally placed in a place or in a niche where they can be paid. Otherwise, if it's just regular jobs that people are doing, then you can most likely anticipate that the children, the young boys who are coming up are going to make less money. What do you also think?
Yeah, and I also think that aside the jobs being shipped out, I think the regular jobs now, apart from the service, is more like skilled, like intellectual, skilled professions available. And if the men are not staying in school, they are not going to end up being the doctors, the lawyers, the teachers, and the nurses, the primary care physician, and all that. Because sometimes they get bored, or they are not encouraged to stay in school. They will end up, and sometimes they just want to use their hand. And now they fall out of school, or they drop out, and there is no.
Those technical training places are not there
Are
to
not there.
absorb them, right?
Yeah, and you realize that the women kind of are more disciplined and more structured, and they will go through the system, and they will end up being the nurses, the primary care physicians, the doctors, the pharmacists, and at the end of the day, they are going to be making more money than the men, because as they're growing up, they get bored in school. They feel like school is overrated, college is overrated. I think it's a thing that most of the young men are talking about. That college is overrated. Sometimes they feel like, I'm bored. This is not for me, and they'll drop out. And when they drop out, it's likely that they are going to do these other jobs that are not that lucrative, or that do not bring in money as much as the one that stayed in school, which happen to be most of the girls. So at the end of the day, the women are making more money than the boys, the men.
Women are making more money because of the nature of the education system. And if we had more of these training institutions for carpentry, for masonry or construction, plumbing, those were the skills that would absorb most of the men, because most boys want to work with their hands. Some men or some young boys would not be willing to sit in the class and study and study and study, through college and then go to another postgraduate professional institution. And also, some men don't. But the rest who can are going there, all right. But majority are falling off from these traditional educational systems and and career training systems, while the jobs that could have absorbed them and the institutions that could have absorbed them, such as vocational training institutes, are not there. They are very minimal. Most parents also do not even encourage their boys to do that, because everybody wants their boy or their sons to go to college and become this, that. Meanwhile, the boys don't do it. Some men don't like it. It's not that they are not smart. They just don't want to sit down and study for 4 years, for 6 years, just to become a doctor, or just to become a lawyer, just to become a nurse or whatever. They just don't want to do. They want something to do with their hands, and yet we don't have those vocational institutions. So
we may have it, but
we
maybe
do, but
may
it's
not
not
be
enough.
encouraged, or it's
It's
not
not
enough. Okay.
And then also we don't encourage them.
Right.
So it's two things going. We have less vocational institutes, and they are also discouraged from going. So yesterday, I think during our King's Night party, was it
2 days ago?
2 days ago, one of the speakers said that they actually let their son go to a technical school instead of a traditional high school. Because you will still be able to go to college when you go to technical training.
Right.
But most people don't. Most people think that if you go to technical training, then it means that's it. And even if that's it, if they get a vocation, especially for a plumber, you know how much plumbers are making? A lot. And you start up your own business or construction company or whatever it is that you get trained in, and you continue to make your money. But we don't have enough of those, and we are also not encouraging enough men to do that. And so the women have taken over where they find it easier because, you know, profession so service oriented.
Right.
It's fitting them easily. I mean, they find it easy to be a nurse. They find it easy to be a doctor. It's just using your brains and, you know, staying and focus on it. But a guy who is, you know, traditionally somebody I want to do is engineering minded, mindset building minded, you know, trying to see things. Our minds are wired differently.
Mm.
And so that is why it seems like the men are failing and the women are doing better. It's because the system is not favoring, you know, the men's way of thinking. And that brings me to one point that we were discussing earlier for the education. We say that men's, you know, young boys' brain are 2 years behind that of girls.
Girls, yeah.
So if you bring two 6-year-olds to first grade, is it 6 years they start or 5? Fifth grade. I mean, 5 years to first grade.
First grade.
Already the girl is 2 years ahead developmentally in terms of their mindset. You know, and you can see it, you know, compared to the boy. They think different. They are already outsmarting the boys right from the onset. We can't go back to the educational board and say that let men start earlier or whatever. But we got to know that right from the onset, the women have become smart. And you said something that was very interesting. If you want to bring it up,
Which
like
one?
the ages that men and women marry traditionally.
Oh yeah, I was saying that sometimes that's why our ancestors, you know, will always encourage you to marry older men because that can match the maturity a little bit.
Come on,
because
man.
if you marry your own age group, you realize that there are certain things that the men may be lagging because maybe their brain, their mind is not there yet.
Yes.
Because if this is so, they encourage you to marry maybe 2 years or 3 years older than you, so that maybe you can match your, you know, the perception and the way that you think and perceive things.
And I never thought about it this way. But it's really true.
It's true.
You know, most men will marry an older, a younger lady. It's not because they want to bully them because they are younger. But if you really go into it, their brain is the same path as that young lady. Because the young ladies have developed, you know, smarter, quicker, you know, in terms of their brain capacity to think and reason and stuff like that, than the men.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm lucky. Yeah, mine was really on there, so we got married around the same age. I can't say that yours was developed more.
No, yeah.
But you know, the fun part. That's the real thing. It's even been baked into the system of how we marry. Because why? Because of the developmental differences in young men and young women. But when we go to the school setting, they don't have that baked in. The same things will be taught to a 5th grade girl and a 5th grade boy at the same age, while they are developmentally different because the girl's brain develops faster. I'm pretty sure, and as they grow, they catch up and they are level. But that should give you a hint that we have to invest more in our men. If you have a boy child and they are growing up, you know, going to school, you got to invest more in them than in the girls. And especially in today's age where games and computer games are rampant, you can't just leave the boys to be more responsible for themselves. You got to be on top of them. And so,
and also with the developmental stages, even if you have a girl child and a boy child, you realize that the boys, it takes them a little bit for them to start talking clearly as compared to the girl. You can see that the girl matures very quickly, and the way that they carry themselves, you know, maybe that's the nurturing thing that God put in us. You can see the girl playing with a doll, and you can realize that she's picking up the baby, doing this like in a matured way, as compared to the boy wanting his mother all the time and crying for mommy all the time. So you can see that there is a little bit differences when they are developing. It doesn't make them smarter or dull. It's just that the way that they are developing may be different pace. So as mothers,
that will affect the academic performances too at school.
So as mothers, as teachers, you know, as leaders, we take this one into consideration so that we know how, you know, to go about the way that we relate to them.
Definitely, definitely. All right, so now let's move on to another area. So we talked about educational differences where men are going down compared to the girls. We talked about money, and we talked about the fact that the boy child is being attacked because if the boys are failing, then the whole society will fail, right? What else do we need to talk about, and then we can?
Yeah, I think also like the woman, when a girl child is developing, they have sometimes they will have their whole life calculated for or structured in their mind.
They have structure.
Yeah, they have structure. So they'll be like, oh, at the age of when I'm done with college, I will get married. At this age, I will have kids. At this age, I will go do my master's. Sometimes they have it put down, structured in their mind that this is how they want to live their life. But it's been realized that men, because maybe we could say, I think we mentioned that because maybe women have the clock, the biological clock, that we know that at a certain point in time, it's maybe harder for you to have kids if you age beyond 35 and all that. So a girl child may have, or a young woman will structure things in such a way that, oh, at the age of 28, I will marry, I'll have kids, I'll have 3 kids and all that, all done maybe in their head or structured put on paper. But a guy would say that why should I settle now? They don't have the biological clock and they can do whatever. So sometimes they can delay their education to a point that maybe they are 30 now, they realize that, oh, I have to go get 4-year degree, or I have to do my master's, I have to do this, because they have that luxury that women do not have. So there are certain decisions that will come based on the way that we have been built. So we know that, oh, at this age, if I don't do this will happen. But a guy will just continue on and do things upside down and still be successful at the end of the day. And somebody may be 40, everything achieved, and now you're struggling to get married and there is no man coming up. So our lifestyle or our clock has been set differently. That's why the men can get away with certain things, and at the end of the day they are successful. But we don't have that luxury. That's what sometimes it look outwardly that we are doing better than the men, but at the end of the day you can sit down and analyze and say that, oh no, the guy can always do this at this age, but I cannot.
I see.
I think that was one of the discussion.
We should not be losing heart if,
Not at all.
if the men, the young boys or young men are not being stable.
Right.
That comes from the fact that they think they have all the time in their life. And remember, we saw a guy today when we were visiting a family.
Yep.
And the guy said, Happy Father's Day. And, we threw that back and forth. And we asked them, how many kids you have? He's like, I got 6. So when he said, I have 6, I'm like, oh, okay, you got room to do more. And he says, I'm done. And I remember the first thing I told him is that for men, you can never
stop, right?
You can never, you can stop, done. But you never done. You can always have a child.
Right.
Which is true. But the woman's case is different. Women have a time. And so that explains why they are more structured, especially when they want to go through these educational systems. Men can play around a little bit, young men can play around a little bit and still catch up.
Right.
But overall, though, we see that our young men are not doing as great as they should, overall. But your point is well taken. So that's the point of stability. Right. Women want to be stable. They want to marry and be at peace with their families. And men, especially the ones that are wild, will not want to necessarily settle down. And so they will play around and not be, settled for a long time until when they feel like they should. I mean, some people will even refuse to marry at the right age because they don't want to be responsible for anything. And that brings me to another point. The other reason why men are not doing well is their choices that come with responsibility. So you can say that, men are not doing well. It's the society's fault. The system is rigged against men. But we ultimately have choices.
Right.
We ultimately have choices. if the school system is not treating your kids right or treating you right, you still have a choice, either to change school
Right.
or to defy whatever it is that the society is, putting on you to restrict you from doing what you've got to do.
Yes.
So that is the next point. Some young men are making the wrong choices. We have people who will listen to music all day, with earphones and play computer games all day. You can tell me that it's because we are favoring, society is pushing the girls up. Yeah, society is pushing the girls up, but you are pushing yourself down. When you know it's a time for you to pursue a career, that's your choice, right? So some men are making the wrong choices and avoiding responsibility.
Right.
Being responsible man, you look to the future and plan your life. You want to marry at some age, you want to be settled down. But if you go like Gifty saying, you don't want to be stable, you don't want to be structured, you just want to play along, the woman until you cannot do anything anymore before you settle. Don't blame the women who are doing well. What do you think?
Yeah, and also like I think one thing that they also say is like, if you wait and make the money, you have more choices. You have good selection.
More women will
be willing to settle with you. But I think studies have shown, or research, or whatever society have shown, that if you settle a little early, with one woman, it's likely that both of you are going to enjoy together to the end, right? Than to wait till you've made all the money. It's likely that you may not be stable, or you may not find the one that truly care for you. So I think it's one thing as you are playing around, you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, you're going to get somebody who is bodiwa. As if you want to understand it, I can explain. Somebody who just is waiting for the Mr. Rich to come and marry them and bring them to that big mansion and treat them right. That is what you're going to get. But if you start planning things earlier, then you can get a forceful, hardworking lady who is also planned themselves, to marry and settle down early. Otherwise, you're also going to get your own match of a person who has also just beating themselves around and not pursuing any real thing, going from man to man to also how ready for you to settle with.
Yep.
So in that case, you're going to also reap the consequences, right? So it's a choice and responsibility part. That is the deal for young men who are also neglecting these things. You can't always blame society for what is not going right with you. Is there anything else?
And also, if you are disengaged because of lack of interest and order, we are encouraging you that you have to reassess your life, and get back in the game. Get back in the game, be engaged, see what is happening out there. If you have to go back to school, like I said, as a guy, you can do it all. You can start over. You don't have to sit and wait for society to tell you, oh, you because of your color, the color of your skin, because of your background, because of all that reasons out there. No, don't accept it. Just get back in the game and do something for your life.
All right. So I think we are on time, and we're gonna had a couple of comments, but somebody is asking us about a health question. So we want you to hit on our health channel and then make your questions known, which is Dr. Oteng, youtube.com/Dr. Oteng. And this is my Facebook page that you asked from. So we show everything that we talk about, including health and social issues that we are talking about today. But yeah, I think the question was about heartburn for 3 months. Your mom has had heartburn for 3 months. So we can respond to that later on in the show as we move forward. But I wouldn't want to do it live because this channel is not about health. We are right now talking about social issues. So if you are following us, make sure you hit the follow. If you are not following us, make sure you hit the follow. And if you have not subscribed, make sure you hit subscribe. Remember that, as we say, we have a channel where we talk only about health, in particular diabetes and other health issues. So you can definitely go to our YouTube channel, which is going to be Dr. Oteng, Droteng, if you have any health issues. But on this channel, we just want to open up and be free. And that's why we call it the dialogue, the Sankofa dialogue. We just want to chat up when we are home. So this is what we are doing on this channel. And we talk about faith issues also. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. All right, anything else before we bring the
I think you were
on?
mentioning like overall solution.
Yes, so let's quickly go through some of the solutions that we may have for young men who seem to be pushed to the corner, getting a little jealous of the young ladies. Because, it's everywhere. Everywhere in the churches, in the families, the ladies are always seemingly doing better. Why can't we guys do it? And they feel left behind. Some of them feel like their families don't love them because they haven't achieved a lot. What is the solution out there? The first thing that I will come up with is become yourself responsible. You cannot blame your issues only on outward problems. And that is very important. Nobody can force you to fail. They can put all the things there for you to fail. Not that anybody is doing it in terms of comparing ourselves to the young women, but I want you to say that nobody, no parent, no teacher, nobody can force you to fail. The system may have been set up in such a way that it does not favor men or young men. But that being said, you have your own choices and responsibilities. Some men are still making it, so you cannot make an excuse and say that, look, you got a point right. Look at how many of my classmates are girls and only the men are always picked up. Yeah, we have a point there, but you cannot use that as an excuse and let yourself down. So young men or fathers of the life, let's make sure that we are responsible. First of all, you be responsible. What choices are you making? Are you choosing to use your time only on video games? Or are you choosing your time only to watch movies? Are you choosing your time only to go to friend's house, playing basketball all the time? The ladies don't do that. They use their time in a better way. So maybe you should cut back on some of the things that are stealing your time. How much time do you spend with friends and in friends' homes? These are the things that we can make choices to begin to make things different. And of course, when it comes to school, we have to study hard. Young men who will be watching, you got to study. You got to hit the books. No matter what, if you are doing good, no amount of challenge is going to put you down as an individual. What we're talking about is systemic structures that are keeping most of our young men down. But individually, you can break through.
Yeah,
some of us are broken through from nowhere to where we are. Nowhere, absolutely nowhere, where you were really barred by prison bars from going anywhere. You don't have the colleges there. You don't have the good high schools there. And yet, some people made it through. And so you cannot make any excuse and fold your arms. So that is the first thing that I would throw in. So the first solution is the people involved, the young men, must themselves recognize their own responsibilities, their own choices about their futures.
Yeah, and even with Father's Day and Mother's Day, you can really see the difference.
Oh yeah,
right. Father's Day, you barely
understand.
hear Father's Day around. We have to remind each other, but Mother's Day is like a week before Mother's Day. You can see the commercials. You can hear this going on here and there, talking about mothers. So fathers, I don't know, something is missing here. We are not hearing more of what you guys are doing. We know for sure there are good men out there and they are doing their best. They are providing for their family, but majority of the men are not stepping up to the table. So we are encouraging you, please step up. Be the man that you were created to be. You know, be the leader, be the head. You know, lead your family, lead society, so that the women will also play their role. It becomes very difficult if the woman have to play the role of a man and a woman in a home at the same time. It's very tough, and sometimes you miss your bearing, and that you can't function very well, and you know, you can survive well. Okay, so that's just by the way. The solution that I also want to throw in is we all need role models. You know, we all need role models. So as a young man, if you feel like you don't have any role model, if the dad is not home and you feel like you are missing out, you feel like you are not, you know, you don't have anybody to look up to. I'm sure you belong to a church or a community or somebody that you can look up to, you know, instead of following or admiring the people that really cannot impact your life. Look out for a role model, you know, or look within. And if you're a Christian, hit the Bible, take the Bible and read. Jesus can be your role model. You know, the characters in the Bible, David, you know, all the characters, they can also be a role model for you. Then you have been built up to succeed. You know, God has put everything in you to make you successful. So you're not going to get society to determine whether you fail or you prosper, you know. So you break the barrier, you find a role model one way or the other, and you tell yourself that you are going to, you know, break that. If it's a generational curse, you are going to it's going to end with you, and you are going to be a different man, and you are going to make sure that your family will come out different. So that can be something that I would suggest. Find a role model and live up to that expectation.
Find a role model and live up to that expectation. Now, as far as solutions from the society, obviously we are not politicians and we don't have any roles to play as far as policy development is concerned. But I think we can begin to go to, PTA meetings and regular school gatherings for our children and stuff, and make these points known. That what are some of the special programs that they are doing towards the boys to bring the boys up to par with the girls.
Yeah.
Because remember, in times past, it was the girls that were lagging
Being left
behind,
behind,
and they changed the system to sort of support them up. So you got to be able to speak up at those PTA meetings, and I can't remember the other meetings we have here. You know, the town hall gatherings and stuff, and local gatherings, local school board meetings is what I was trying to say. Make your voice known and make these suggestions to them that they have to find a way to support the boys who are falling out. And that is why there's crime increasing in some neighborhoods, because the boys just can't make it, and they become, men are like that. If we don't find anything to do, we have to find a crime to do. You just have to find something to do.
Yeah.
And so by incorporating them into these programs, we may be able to extend their time in school, preventing crime, as well as also give them good careers and also things that will make their lives better for them. So that's the first thing. As a society, we all got to be involved. And then as parents, we have to also be there for our sons. If you are a man, you have a child, I don't care whether it's a boy or a girl, and you do not really impact them, you are making the worst mistake ever, because that is your first responsibility. Your own blood children you have brought up, you got to be there for them. And being there for them, it doesn't mean you should be there every day. I understand. Some people are even divorced. You can't probably even go to your child's home all the time. You are remarried. I understand, but you got to be there. You got to show yourself as a model that you have to be. The role model is first your dad. I mean, you as the dad. And so if children are not feeling your presence, there is a problem.
Yep.
There are some fathers who are also fathers, but they are absent. They are absent from the homes. They are not in the homes to help with the children. Yeah, you're a father, all right, but when you're home, how many times do you even talk to your child? do you bring your child out? I mean, my son won't go out with me because he says everywhere I'm
You
going
go
is
to Home
boring.
Depot.
It's boring. But at least I make the effort. Hey, like
go.
yesterday, let's go. Let's go. And then the first question, where are you going? Then I said 2 places, and he's like, no, I don't want to go to those places. But at least I made the effort, and maybe the next time I'll bring him to where he wants, so we go.
Yeah.
But you got to actively be involved
Engage
in
them.
the son's life. Show them the ropes. You can't just have children and let them just be. And we have to befriend our children. Your child should have you as a best friend. They shouldn't be intimidated by your presence. They should be able to feel the warmth of a father around all the time, be willing to come to you and talk to you no matter what their problems they are facing, what their joys are. That is how you create these bold, masculine men who are able to come out and do the right things. Otherwise, they will continue to remain timid and fall behind on the wayside, and the girls will continue to do better, and crime will increase, and then we'll blame the boys, which we don't want. So God forbid, right? God forbid that happening. But I think that's a good place to learn, right? All right, so if you found this very interesting, we want you to hit the thumbs up and the like button, which is the thumbs up in some places, and also share the video with other people so that we all will raise lovely boys and girls, of course. We want to make sure that our children do better. So on this beautiful day, we want to wish all the fathers happy Father's Day, and all the young men out there who are soon to become fathers, happy Father's Day. Hopefully you guys will go through your school, your training and everything, and be the right person that God wants you to be.
And also our spiritual fathers.
Our spiritual fathers.
We salute
the pastors, and the apostles,
the elders,
and the
apostles.
prophets. Yes, that's a very. Those people are taking care of us spiritually and feeding us like sheep. And God bless you all for being with us. Until we see you again next week. So next week our show will be on the health channel, which is Dr. Oteng. Now, it's going to be shown also here on Facebook if you're watching on Facebook. But if you haven't subscribed, do well to subscribe to both of our channels, Dr. Oteng, and also to our health, which is the health channel, Dr. Oteng on YouTube. And also this channel, which we just started, we're going to be talking about so many social issues, as well as my sermons when I preach, or whenever I have time to talk about faith things, we also put it out here. So this is where we're going to be talking about social issues, and we call this channel the Sankofa Dialogue, which is go back, to the first things, whether it's history or faith. We're going to be talking about a range of issues, including things like this, things on Africa, diaspora, and things on America, whatever it is that is affecting our social life. We're going to talk about those on this channel. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you go on the subscribe. Go to youtube.com/the Sankofa Dialogue. Sankofa, Sankofa Dialogue, as it's on the screen. Sankofa Dialogue. All right, until we see you again, we say,
Beloved, we wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers.
God bless you for watching.
God bless you.
Thanks.